Welcome back to Tasty Tech Tips. I'm Fahim, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make video playback or your preview panel a lot smoother in Davinci Resolve with a few simple tricks. Let's get into it. First of all, you want to head on over to the very top where it says playback. Click on this menu, go to the timeline proxy resolution, which is your little preview panel over here, and we can change this from full, which is a full resolution. So if you're working with 1080p, you're previewing it at a full 1080p. If you're working with 4K, you're previewing at a full 4K, which is a very high resolution for the majority of computers. And you can just set this to half. I recommend this for everyone, even if you're working with 4K footage, unless you're a literal professional, which in this case, you don't really need this tutorial. But yeah, just set it to half and it won't really affect the footage. As you can see, it still looks very crisp, and just makes it a lot smoother when you're playing back the video. You shouldn't get a lot of hitching. Just makes life a lot easier. Next, you're gonna go back to playback and go to the render cache and set it to smart if you have it on none. You can also click it on user and it'll give you the option to set the render cache yourself. Basically, it just caches files, so while your Davinci Resolve is sitting there, you have footage in the timeline. It's going to build up these little files in the background, which it can refer to very quickly, which allows for very smooth playback. Without having cache, you're constantly loading a file, which is a lot straight on your computer. So I recommend setting this on smart. You can do user if you're a professional or if you have specific needs for Davinci Resolve, but I recommend keeping it on smart. And for the just to go back on the timeline proxy resolution, if you're still having issues with half, you can do quarter. I will say, unless you're using 4K footage, this will be very rough. So if I click it on quarter right here, you can see quickly that the sharpness of the video drops. But if you're working with a lot of text or something like that, it will make it a little difficult, but it shouldn't be too big of a problem, especially if you're working with gaming footage or just something where you don't have to look at very minute details while you're editing. But you should be fine for when you export the video. It'll be just as sharp as you need it. So I prefer to preview my video at half resolution, because I do work with text sometimes, but you should be fine on quarter as well, as long as your footage isn't very low resolution. The next tip is color grading. If you are color grading Davinci Resolve, which you should, unless you are very happy with your footage, which honestly, very glad for you, but I prefer video to always be color graded for the most part, except for my gaming videos. A lot of the times I don't color grade them, but sometimes I do. You can actually toggle it on and off. So usually you can color grade your video. You're happy with how it turns out, you can just turn it off at the top right, and this will let you work on your video without the color grading being actively applied to your video in the editor. And this just allows for a smoother playback, as your computer isn't trying to do two things at once, both show the video and show the video with it being color graded on top. So you can easily turn that on and off. This will also turn off fusion effects if you do use that. So just a heads up, if you're editing and you don't see your fusion effects, that's what happened. The next thing you can do is head on over to the bottom right and click on the settings icon, or this cog icon. And now we're in the master settings. So just to point out, the timeline format is what we're going to touch right now. You want to change this back every single time you're editing, because if you don't change this back before you render your video, you are going to be rendering it at a different resolution, or the resolution of your timeline is going to be different. So it won't be as sharp. You won't be using the full 4K footage that you have sitting on your computer. So I do recommend anytime you're editing, you can set this to 1920 by 1080. And honestly, if you are someone who just works with 1080p footage, you can do this as well, and you can just render the video in 4K and you can upscale the video. That is actually what I do. I keep it at 1920 by 1080p, and then I just change this to 60 FPS, which it shouldn't really matter if you put at 59.94, but I just like putting it at 60. Here at the video monitoring, which is right here of this panel, you can also set this to 1080p as well. You do not need to be previewing at 4K unless you really need to, which is for a specific audience. And then down over here, we're going to see the optimized media and render cache. So for this, you can honestly just drop it down to low bit rate. So you have the proxy media format, the optimized media format, and then the render cache format. Basically deciding what you get to see here. Just drop it down to LB or low bit rate, because it's really not going to affect you. It might look a little bit less sharp, a little bit more blocky, but it just ensures that you can easily see and easily preview your video. So I can play. Yeah, we're just going to turn off that audio, but very smooth playback. I don't have any hitching, which I was having a lot of when I was working on this video. So yeah, those are a few tips and tricks. Just remember to change the timeline resolution back to 4K before you render, and that's how you make Davinci Resolve very smooth on playbacks. There's gonna be other tips and tricks tutorials videos uploaded by us, but that is for a future date. I hope this does help you guys out. Make sure to subscribe, turn notifications so you guys never miss a video here from Tasty Tech Tips. Check out our other channels at tastymediagroup.com. Check out my personal channel, that's Tasty Guava or tastyguava.com, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.